This unit is about intelligence. In this lesson, we're going to look at intelligence tests, who created the first intelligence test, and how they've progressed throughout our history. As you can see, the definition of an intelligence test is a method of assessing an individual's mental aptitudes and comparing them to others using numerical scores. Most intelligence tests are not covering specific academic content areas. Rather, they consist of a wide range of basic or general knowledge questions. Many are problem-solving questions, like the one you see in the bottom right image. In this problem, you will be asked to choose which of the following objects listed at the bottom should be placed in the box with the question mark. The answer would be object number 3, the white square and the black plus sign. The reason is because every other box has a white object and a black object. In the early 1900s, France passed a law making it mandatory for all children to attend public school. Prior to that law, only wealthy children could go to school. Many families needed their children to work in the factories, fields, or businesses to make ends meet. Whenever the French passed this law, it was clear that children who had not attended school may not be very successful. For example, if a child is 10 and has been working since they were 5, and they were placed with other students who are the same age, but have been in school for the past 5 years, they will not be on the same level and be set up for failure. So Binet and his assistant, Theodore Simon, created a test to help identify students who had special needs. Binet and Simon created a test to assess a child's mental age. Instead of placing children according to a chronological age, they would group them according to their mental ability so that they could be successful. A child whose mental age is the same as their chronological age was considered average. A child who had a mental age higher than their chronological age was called bright, and those who fell below were termed dull. 11 years after the creation of Binet's intelligence test, the Americans came up with their own revision. This test was created in 1916 by Lewis Terman, a professor at Stanford University. At this time, it was believed that intelligence was inherited and that people who were uneducated were more prone to criminal activity. This test, sadly, was not designed to help children with special needs like France. One use for this test was for immigration control. Americans didn't want people to enter the country who were uneducated and did not have their own language or customs. Those who came in through Ellis Island on the East Coast or Angel Island on the West Coast were given this test without a translator. So obviously, those who didn't speak the language or who were illiterate failed and were sent back. Another program this test was used for is a program called eugenics that was created by Henry Goddard. Again, believing that uneducated people commit more crime and pass that on to their offspring. One way to stop crime would be to identify people who fell into this category and stop them from reproducing. Most states adopted a eugenics program, which began in the 1920s, and in some states, like North Carolina, continued into the 1970s. Overall, approximately 64,000 Americans, mostly young women, who were deemed feeble-minded, were sterilized. Many of them did not even understand what procedure they had had when they left the hospital. You don't find this in your history books. It's kind of a dirty little secret. Mentally ill were also among those who were sterilized. It was very well known at the time and widely accepted. A national poll in the 1930s reported 64% of the American population believed it was a good program. The Nazi Party took great interest before World War II. They admired our eugenics program and used many of our ideas in their atrocities against the Jews. If you are interested in this topic, there is a great BBC documentary which I've listed the link to below. The score of an intelligence test was created by a man named William Stern. He derived what's called the intelligence quotient, which is a person's mental age divided by their chronological age, and then multiply that by 100 to get rid of the decimal. Take a minute and pause the video and see if you can answer the following two scenarios based on the previous formula for intelligence quotient. So an 8-year-old with a mental age of 10, their intelligence quotient, or IQ, would be 125. A 12-year-old with a mental age of 9 would have an intelligence quotient of 75. If you mix up the numbers, you have to think 100 would be the average. An 8-year-old with a mental age of 8, 8 divided by 8 is 1 times 100 gives you 100. So if the mental age is higher than their chronological age, you know that your number has to be above 100. So if the mental age falls below the chronological age, your answer has to be below 100. Here you can see a bell curve. The majority of the population fall between 85 to 115, 100 being the most and the average. There is one problem with the IQ formula. It doesn't work very well with adults. For example, if you have a 60-year-old man who does as well as a 30-year-old man on an intelligence test, so you have 60-year-old where their mental age is 30, that would give you an IQ of 50, which would fall into being profoundly mentally retarded. That doesn't make sense. The IQ, or intelligence quotient, does not work on people past their college years, roughly past maybe 25 years of age, because you're not increasing in your knowledge base as you get older and graduate from college. So if you are in your 60s and you're just as smart as someone in their 40s, you're doing pretty well.